So I often teach the Bible as a 5-act play. So it begins with God in creation. God creates everything, and it's good, and it's very good, and there's communion, and there's paradise, and everything is in its proper place, and everything works well, and it's a lovely, wonderful reality. And then that begins to unravel and break down, and there's sin, and there's brokenness, and there's evil and injustice, and all the violence and all the things that you don't like about the world. Those things are also real. And then God spends the rest of the Bible trying to repair, restore, renew. And so that starts by God calling a people called Israel, and he delivers them from Egypt and slavery, leads them into the promised land, gives them both a way to worship and a way to live. And they're to do that in the promised land, and they do it well and poorly, well and poorly. And in the fullness of time, Jesus comes, the Word made flesh, to make God's purposes completely plain in the world. And then at the end of all things, as Katie's saying, everything, all of the work that was started in Jesus to renew and repair and to heal a broken creation will one day be made whole. The end of the story is good, just as the beginning of the story. And the question is, where do we find ourselves in that story? Yeah. And I think oftentimes we put ourselves in the place of Jesus, where we're the most important player in the story, that everybody else is playing a bit part in the story that we're telling, when really what we're called to do is be the followers of Jesus. We have an important role in the story. It's just not the most important role, right. But Jesus gives us good work to do. What that good work is, I think, is connected to your longing, your deep desire for creation and new creation. So where it is that in the beginning, like if you are a person who loves beauty and art and creativity, maybe your way to partner with the work of God, to follow up on the work of Jesus and to lean forward to new creation is to be an artist, to be somebody who's engaged in making the world more beautiful. Maybe you're a person who gets angry in the face of injustice, right. And maybe you need to be a lawyer or an advocate or a social worker. Whatever it is that you're doing, there is a way of thinking about it and framing that work up as partnering with the work of God. And this is part of what we're trying to cultivate for you over the course of this week. What are some of the ways in which you think about that? One of the ways I love about this section is that you put it in terms of what God longs for or loves or values. So what are some of those things?
Yeah. It's reminded me of a quote that we read about last week where Frederick Buechner says that your calling is the place where like your deep hunger meets the world's need. And the world has a lot of needs, and God desires to bring his goodness and his character and his love and his hope into all these places. And so sometimes I think the stories that we're going to read, we're going to remember about Micah and God's heart for justice and mercy and to walk humbly with him, and how Nehemiah was so moved by the broken of the walls being knocked down and destroyed, that he begins the task of faithfully rebuilding. We're going to look at stories of people that pour into their art, into their wood making, into their creativity, and to do that in a way that honors the Lord. We're going to look at how Jesus notices and cares for the marginalized, his posture of seeing people who the world doesn't see, and even seeing people who are going to betray him. Looking at the story of the Last Supper, where he washes the disciples' feet, even Judas, that his compassion reaches that low, and so we're gonna look at these stories, but we also want you to reflect on your own story. Where does your heart break for the world? Where do you have longing? Where do you have creativity? And what does that look like in which you might partner?